all of our systems play a role in maintaining homeostasis. So remember that this is a characteristic of life, is maintaining a dynamic internal equilibrium. So we talked about the regulation of body temperature, for example. So there are some organisms that are endothermic that regulate their body temperature using their metabolism. And then there are some organisms that are ectothermic that might use the environment and their behavior to regulate their internal environment. You'll remember that negative feedback mechanisms are super important in maintaining homeostasis, so that we have a stimulus that is detected by a receptor. This receptor is connected to a control center. This control center then causes a response. So we could say that this is the effector organ, and it causes a response, and this response decreases the stimulus. Hence why it is called a negative feedback mechanism. It's important to realize that stimuli are internal as well as external. Actually, maybe internal might be more important when we talk about regulating blood pressure, regulating heart rate, regulating the amount of red blood cells in your body, for example, the amount of oxygen that is getting to your tissues. We can also talk about how we have ions in our body. And so we could talk about the regulation of calcium ions. So calcium ion regulation. Calcium ions they have 2 pluses. So sometimes it's written as a +2. Calcium ions we're going to talk about are super important in the nervous system and in the muscular system, and they are transported in your blood. So they are in your blood, and they can also be stored in your bones. So we have a gland called the parathyroid gland. This parathyroid gland has a receptor, and it is also the control center. So if it senses that calcium levels are too low, it produces a hormone. So it produces this is parathyroid, PTH, PT. So it produces parathyroid hormone. So this is your parathyroid. This is PTH, parathyroid hormone. And this actually causes osteoclasts, which are cells that break down the bone. So they break down bone matrix. This is your effector is in your skeleton. They break down the bone matrix and release calcium ions. So that means that your bones are storing calcium for you. And if you're not getting enough calcium in your diet and absorbing it, you can get some calcium by removing it from your bones. You wouldn't want to do that on a regular basis because that is going to make your bones soft, right? Because it's the calcium phosphate minerals that make your bone hard. So this release of calcium actually would increase calcium levels in the blood. So that would be an example of a homeostatic mechanism. When we talk about glucose levels, which we're going to talk about in detail when we get to the digestive system, glucose levels are regulated primarily by your pancreas. And the pancreas produces insulin, and that insulin can cause the glucose to be removed, and it is stored in your liver. And so here the liver and the pancreas are part of the digestive system, but they're also having an interaction with your endocrine system, right? Because the pancreas is an endocrine organ too, not just a digestive organ. And so this would be kind of an interaction between the systems to help you regulate your blood glucose levels.